Okay, so let's go through the second section of the verse now. This uses the first section of the verse as a foundation, so if you haven't checked out part 2, please do now. Okay, so the first line of music starts off on the 5th fret of the high E string. You're going to play this with your little finger, then you're going to play the 3rd fret of the high E string with your index finger and slide to the 2nd fret. You're then going to go to the 3rd fret of the high E string with your little finger and reach up to the 3rd fret of the low E string and play this with your middle finger. You're then going to go to the 3rd fret of the B string with your 4th finger. So altogether you should have this. Next we're going to play the first percussive hit. Sungha Jung plays this with his index finger. I use my middle finger as it's already in place. So you should have your 4th finger already on the fretboard on the B string on the 3rd fret. So what we're actually going to do here, we're going to play the G open and the B together with the back of our nail. And as I say, I use my middle finger, so it sounds like this. Okay, so altogether it sounds like this, including the first part. Next, we're going to pull off the 1st fret of the B string to open B. So altogether you should have this so far. Next, you're going to play open G, followed by another percussive hit. Again, I'm going to use the back of my middle finger. So altogether you should have this so far. Next, you're going to play open D, followed by the 1st fret of the B string with your index finger, and your middle finger should already be in place on the 3rd fret of the low E string, and you're going to play these together. Next, you're going to play open G, and you're going to do another percussive hit now, and this is going to be on the G and the B string. And the B string you should have in place with your index finger on the 1st fret. Finally, you're going to play open B. So that very last part goes like this. Okay, so I'm just going to recap over the first line of music. Okay, so we're on to the second line of music now. You want to place your little finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string and slide up to the 5th fret. You're then going to play the 3rd fret of the high E string and play this with your index finger. And now we're going to play another percussive hit. I'm going to use the back of my 4th finger. Sungha Jung uses his index finger, as I've mentioned. So it'll sound like this. Okay, so far. Next, you're going to play the 2nd fret of the high E string with your little finger, followed by the 2nd fret of the A string with your middle finger, and the 1st fret of the D string with your index finger. Okay, so far you should have. Next, we're going to play a percussive hit on a B7 chord, which is highlighted in the tablature. Your 4th finger should be on the 2nd fret of the G string. Your little finger should be on the 2nd fret of the high E string. I'm going to play this with the back of my middle fingernail, which should sound like this. Next, we're going to play the 2nd fret of the A string with the open B string, followed by the 2nd fret of the high E string. So far you should have. Next, we're going to play another percussive hit, which should be the same as the previous one and should sound like this. This is followed by the second fret of the A string with our middle finger, then the second fret of the A string and the first fret of the B string with our index finger, and we'll play this together. Next, we'll play the second fret of the G string with our fourth finger, and now we'll play another percussive hit with the back of our fingernail on open G and the first fret of the B string, so it should sound like this. Next, we'll play open B. Okay, so that last section is. So the entire second line should sound like this. Okay, so now we're on to the third line of music. We're going to place our little finger on the third fret of the high E string and slide up to the fifth fret. Next, we're going to place our index finger on the third fret of the high E string and slide to the second fret. As soon as you've reached the second fret, we actually want to play another percussive hit. Again, I use my fourth finger for this, so it should sound like this all together. Once again. Okay, so now we're going to play the third fret of the high E string with our little finger, followed by the third fret of the A string with our fourth finger, then to the high E open. So altogether it should sound like this so far. Next, we're going to play another percussive hit, and this is going to be from the open G string to the open E string, and should sound like this. So you should have this so far. Next, we're going to play the third fret of the A string with our fourth finger, which should be already in place, followed by the open G, then the open B. So altogether you should have this so far. Next, we're going to play open G and open B as a percussive hit. I'm going to use the back of my middle fingernail again, and it should sound like this. Next, we're going to go to the third fret of the A string with our fourth finger, which should be already in place, followed by the third fret of the A string and the first fret of the B string with our index finger, and played at the same time. Next, we'll play open G, followed by open G and the first fret of the B string, played as a percussive hit, followed by the third fret of the A string with our fourth finger. Okay, so that last section is. Again. Okay, so I'll just recap over the entire third line. Okay, so well done if you've reached this final line of music of part 3. We're going to place our little finger on the third fret of the high E string in the same way and slide to the fifth fret. Then we're going to place our index finger on the third fret of the high E string and slide down to the second fret. As soon as we've reached the second fret, we're going to play a percussive hit. Again, I'll play this with the back of my fourth finger. So altogether it should sound like this so far. Okay, so next we're going to play the third fret of the high E string with our little finger. And remember to let this ring out as long as possible whilst we reach up to the third fret of the A string with our index finger and play that twice. So it should sound like this. Okay, so altogether you should have this so far. Okay, so from the C minor that we should have in place already, we're going to play the 4th fret of the B string, followed by the 5th fret of the G string, followed by the 5th fret of the D string. So altogether we should have. Okay, so for the final part, we're going to play a C minor with 2 upstrokes with our thumb pick or thumbnail, 1 downstroke with our index finger, and 1 final upstroke with our thumb pick or thumbnail. So it should sound like this. Once again. Okay, so I'll just recap over the entire final line of music.